At Team Toyota, they've been selling and servicing new and used Toyotas in your community for over 50 years. And you can reserve your next new Toyota with them today. You'll get a realistic timeline, and even in this crazy market, they won't charge you over MSRP. Or don't wait at all. With over 75 certified Toyotas, including a bunch of RAV4 and Highlanders, you can drive one home today. And you can always trust them to maintain your current vehicle. Their service and collision centers are high-tech, comfortable, and will save you time and money. Team Toyota can help you go anywhere you want, but they'll always be your hometown team. Just visit teamtoyota.net and choose from 3 locations in Langhorne, Glen Mills, or Princeton. Hey folks, welcome to the Phillies Talk podcast presented by Team Toyota. Corey and Jim here with you during the All-Star break. It is Tuesday morning as we sit down, the morning after the home run derby. But Jim, the Phillies ended the first half on a real high note, going down to Miami, and it was a series that could have gone either way. We know how those series have often played out at Marlins Park for the Phillies in recent years, but this year was different. They went down, they swept the Marlins, they outscored them 16-1 in the 3 games. Just take us through that series and what you thought of the way the Phils played to end the first half.
Yeah, it was a tremendous series, and it was a really vital series closing out the first half because it was a 9-game road trip, and you start off that road trip in St. Louis with 2 shutout victories, then you lose the next 2, and then you lose 2 in Toronto, so you got a 4-game losing streak. The All-Star break is looming, and you have to go to this house of horrors in Miami where you've had a lot of trouble over the last few years. And they go out. I thought it was kind of a gut check series, and they went out and they dominated it. And it all comes down to starting pitching for this team, the way it's going. 9-game trip, you get 4 shutouts. You get 5 wins and 4 of them by shutout. Just a great run of starting pitching and bullpen. Their bullpen since June 1st is the 4th best in baseball. Hats off to the entire pitching staff for what they're doing. But yeah, it was just to dominate that series, to see JT Realmuto swing the bat really well in that series was a big thing. The bullpen, Aaron Nola, Kyle Gibson with his 2nd straight really strong outing. And, what you did is the Marlins were kind of nipping around there, nipping at your toes in the wild card race. And you went up, I think, 5 on them in the wild card race. It's a nice little cushion. And, with that sweep down there in Miami, the Phillies go into the All-Star break in a virtual tie with the St. Louis Cardinals for control of the 3rd wildcard spot. But the Phillies have the upper hand because they won the season series against St. Louis. So it's a really good place to be going into the All-Star break. An amazing turnaround for this ball club since June 1st. They got on Kyle Schwarber's back. They believed in Rob Thompson. The bullpen turned it around. They got a lot of good starting pitching. Rhys Hoskins joined Schwarber in really producing, and I'm really curious to see how the second half plays out. I know we're all very, very focused on the trade deadline, but for me, some of their infusion of production could come right from within when they get some of their players back, some of their offensive players, and they've already gotten some of their pitching back. Suarez is back, Brogdon is back, Jojo Romero is back. Brogdon and Romero we should talk about that. I think they could be X factors for this team in the second half. But obviously I'm referring mostly to Harper and Segura coming back in that second half, and drop in maybe a trade or 2. And it should be a really interesting run as they try to break that 10-year postseason drought.
So the Phillies coming out of the All-Star break, Jim, they have a pretty soft schedule. They do have the Braves for 2 series out of the first 4 in the second half, but 14 of the first 19 games post-All-Star break are against the Cubs, Pirates, Nationals, and those Marlins. So the Cardinals also have a pretty soft schedule coming out of the break. A lot of those NL Central teams, it's imperative that the Phillies continue to play well. You talked about the starting pitching success. Going back to June 3rd, which was the start of that Phillies-Angels series that they swept, Philly starting pitchers have a 3.39 ERA over that span in 41 games. So that's like a fourth of the season that they have this low ERA that ranks seventh in baseball, fourth in the National League behind the Giants, Dodgers, and Braves. But the first half comes to an end. It was up, it was down. The Phillies end it with, one of the best run differentials in the majors. They end it with one of the better records in the majors. And to your point, they did it without Bryce Harper and Gene Segura for weeks at a time there. So some would look at that and say, okay, they're going to get healthier. They're probably going to add at the trade deadline, and things could, get even better in the second half. They could crack 90 wins. I mean, what do you think about this team? Is it too flawed? Do you see the ability for them to hang in this wild card race with teams like the Cardinals and the Giants and the Padres? Because at this point, at the first half, at break, it looks like it's probably four teams fighting for those final two spots. The Braves have kind of run away with that first wild card. I think they have a 4-game advantage on the Padres at this point. But then you have the Padres, Giants, Phillies, and Cardinals fighting for those final two spots.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There's only 8 teams above 500 in the National League. You're going to have 3 division champs, and then so 6 out of those 8 are going to probably make it here. But it's going to be tough on the Phillies. I think they can do it. Actually, they've hung in here for this amount of time. They're going to get people back. I mean, the loss of Eflin is troubling. The uncertainty with Zach Eflin. The knee issue is lingering. He's had problems with it for a long time. Tough blow for him personally, tough blow for the team. I do think Dave Dombrowski is going to have Sam Fold. They're going to have to address that starting rotation. I probably even think it supersedes center field and the bullpen right now, though I do believe they need to do something in that bullpen to kind of take some pressure off Sir Anthony Dominguez. Maybe that's Knebel. Maybe he steps up. Maybe Hand keeps stepping up in the second half. But can they hang in? Sure, why not? I mean, why not? I mean, they've been in it this long. But they're going to have to get Harper and Segura back healthy and delivering. That's going to really help their lineup. Tell you this, Segura was on the Miami trip, and he is looking like he can't wait to get back on the field. Like he is really chomping at the bit to get out there. The batting cage in Miami is adjacent to the clubhouse, so it's not like down the hallway. So you can literally hear guys in there whacking away, hitting in the cage right next to the clubhouse. And he finished the other day, and he came walking out, and he's yelling to Rob Thompson. He goes, "Hey, Topper, August 3rd." So now I don't know if he's going to be ready that soon. That's the day he comes off the 60-day DL. But the message is he can't wait to get going. He feels good. He feels like he's ahead of schedule. That's going to be a big lift. Him and Harper, they've done it without those two guys. They're two best pure hitters. You get Segura back. That's a big lift. I mean, you put him right at second base. Maybe it's time to take Bryson Stott and just turn him loose at shortstop and see what he can do. When that happens, that's something I think they'll consider. That's something I think they probably should do. But it'll be nice to get Segura back. We'll probably get an update here maybe over the weekend on how Harper is doing. But I still think he is of a mind to be back, producing by around September 1. And those two guys should really help things. And those are two really nice trade deadline pickups, and I think in that regard, maybe Dombrowski can focus on pitching.
Where do you think Segura might hit in the batting order when he comes back? I mean, it's a different lineup without Harper. Do you think he would be in that 2-3 spot, or down closer to 5-6 for Rob Thompson?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. Maybe initially without Harper, maybe in that 2-3. I like him in the two spot. He hits, he fuels his on base percentage, and it'd be nice to get some on base percentage in front of some of these guys. But maybe you drop Castellanos and put him at 3. That certainly would be reasonable. I mean, Castellanos hasn't really done much, and at some point, I think you need to kind of shock a guy's system and say, okay, we're going to drop you down here. Put Segura there, put Segura at 2. Maybe in the second half they get Schwarber toward the middle and maybe Segura can hit at the top, or maybe Stott can hit at the top, and you look to get some of that thump back in the middle. But I don't know. Maybe they won't mess with having Shore done such a good job leadoff. But it doesn't really matter where you put them. It's going to just be good to have those guys back, Harper and Segura.
Yeah, and it was a really good sign to see JT Realmuto kind of come get on track from a power standpoint down in Miami. It's obviously a ballpark where he feels comfortable, where he began his career. He heads into the break with 4 straight good games, 3 of them in a row with an extra base hit. In fact, over his final dozen heading into the All-Star break, Realmuto hit .349 with an OPS over 1,000. Power hadn't been there the first 2.5 months of the season. That was really good to see for the Phillies because Realmuto and Castellanos, until Harper gets back, until Segura gets back, Phillies need more from those guys because we've seen Kyle Schwarber kind of slow it down heading into the All-Star break, and who knows what kind of August he's in for example. Is he going to hit 12 homers? Is he going to hit 6 homers? And what's the OBP going to be? So, the Phillies need contributions elsewhere.
Right.
And you earlier mentioned a couple of relievers who are back, in Brogdon and JoJo Romero, who have been helpful for the Phillies over the last 2 seasons. For much of the first half, we looked at the needs of this team and we thought, okay, bullpen, just like recent seasons. They need more back-end help. They need more depth in the bullpen. But at this point, with the Eflin uncertainty and with Ranger Suarez coming back from the back spasm right before the break, it seems like starting pitching is a bigger need at this point.
I would agree. I think it has superseded bullpen and center field. It would be great if Eflin could come back and deal him, but who knows? I mean, they went through this last year and we thought it was going to be a couple starts, and he didn't make it back. So you hope he makes it back. He threw a simulated game the other day and still was feeling it in that knee. So, but he mentioned Romero and Brogdon, and I also have to mention Jose Alvarado. What a job he has done since coming back from that little brief trip to the minor leagues to work on some stuff. And he wasn't thrilled about being sent down. And then again, who is, right? Who is? But he has come back, and I think he's had 13 or 14 straight scoreless, ton of strikeouts, walks away down. He's throwing that cutter. For some reason, he can command it better than that 100-mile-an-hour, 101-mile-an-hour sinker, which is fine, whatever works. I mean, that 101-mile-an-hour sinker is in the back of the hitter's mind, and so is now that cutter. So he's done a heck of a job for them. Brogdon looks like, he's always had the stuff to do it. His stuff was down early in the season, but it looks like it's getting better. He could be a real big contributor here. And JoJo Romero, coming back from Tommy John, gets on the mound over the weekend in Miami. He's 97. He could be a guy that gives you a lift. He's got sort of a mentality that, I think works at the end of the game. He's got some fire to him, and he's very excited to be back. 14 months after surgery, I think it is. So he might give this team a lift. You never know with bullpens. You never know. I mean, look at Alvarado. Somebody gets hot, and you can ride him for a month. So Brogdon and JoJo Romero could be nice X factors for this team as it moves along. They're going to need a starter on Tuesday night. I would imagine that'll be Falter. That's where they're going to start having to plug Eflin's spot. And they're going to have to probably subtract a pitcher, I would imagine. So I don't know where they're going to trim from in that bullpen. But they have gotten, the bullpen has just been a real bright spot here since June 1.
And then, still speaking trade deadline from a position player standpoint, if you're going to get Segura back, you're going to get Harper back. That fills the DH spot. That fills the second base spot. You're probably going to be able to, move Stott over to shortstop somewhat to play along with Didi Gregorius when Gregorius isn't hitting well. Where would the Phillies even add if they were to add position player talent at the deadline? Do you see them doing that? Would it have to be center field?
I think if they add positions, probably center field, maybe a defensive-minded center fielder, somebody to shore up the defense, because the outfield defense is poor. And if you can really shore it up in center field, you can help their 2 corners. But I also think they're intrigued by Matt Vierling, and what he can do. And he's getting better, getting more comfortable, getting more confident, getting better. So he's going to get more looks here going forward.
Speaking of center fielders, the Phillies drafted a center fielder in the first round Sunday night, selecting Justin Crawford out of Bishop Gorman High School in Las Vegas. He's the son of former Tampa Bay Ray Carl Crawford. This is the fourth outfielder the Phillies have drafted in the first round, dating back to 2015, when they went 3 years in a row going Cornelius Randolph, Mickey Moniak, and Adam Hazley. They're hoping to have more success with this pick and hope that the guy really hits. As of this point, his best skills look like his speed and his defense. And as it is with many prospects, it'll depend on how much Justin Crawford hits to determine whether or not he makes it to the majors. But busy week for the Phillies because you had Kyle Schwarber in the Home Run Derby Monday night. You have Schwarber in the All-Star Game Tuesday. And Jim, on Monday, it was the Juan Soto show. He won the night, won the Home Run Derby. And there's that report out that he rejected a $440 million contract offer from the Washington Nationals, who are now going to try to trade him. That report was in The Athletic. That would certainly shake up the division. I mean, the Nationals are not winning games as it is. They're a doormat. Every NL East team is going there and pounding them and winning series against them. Nationals have the worst record in the majors. You would think that the Nationals, if they do end up trading Soto, it wouldn't be within the division. But that's that would be the biggest player move in years based on the guy's age and talent level, huh?
Yeah, and it would be 2 years in a row, a major exodus of talent in Washington. Last year was Scherzer and Trey Turner exiting. So, I don't know where he's going to end up, but, you got the thing that makes him so attractive right now is you got him for 3 pennant races before he hits free agency. And, that's probably worth giving up a bunch just for that. 3 great years. If you're ready to win and you can get a guy like that for 3 postseasons, 3 pennant races in his prime, major difference maker, that's something. This is not like a 1-year rental. You're getting this guy for 3 Octobers. So I expect him to be on the move. I expect it to cost a lot. I don't know where he's going to end up. In these situations, I always watch the Yankees and the Dodgers. So, the Yankees have prospect capital. He'd be awfully good in that ballpark. My gosh. So we'll see what happens there. I know Phillies will not miss him. He's a heck of a player. He's a great player. And he did put on a show Monday night. Schwarber looked like he had a little bit of trouble squaring it up consistently. I was thinking about this, and I love it when people say, "Oh, baseball players, they just stand around." Give me a break. It's such a grind, this game. It's every day for 7 months. He started off his week with 3 games in 100-degree weather in 4 games in 100-degree weather in St. Louis. Then they flew to Toronto, got in at 4 in the morning, played 2 games, flew to Miami, got in at 4 in the morning, played 3 more games. And then he's on a plane after Sunday's game, flying across country to LA to be in that show. If he was a little, exhausted, it's completely understandable. So I was a little surprised he wasn't named the starting DH in the National League lineup. I thought that would have been a nice touch because Bryce Harper had been voted the starting DH, and you could have had the National League leader in home runs been the DH. But I think who was it? Is it Wilson Contreras? It's going to be. But Schwarber will get in the All-Star game and then get some rest and get back here Friday night. Against those Cubs, like you mentioned, the schedule is a little soft. You got Cubs and Pittsburgh sandwiched around Atlanta. You gotta make some hay and do some damage.
Yeah, and the Phillies also have the Braves a couple times coming out of the break. The Braves have been red hot. They won 33 of their last 44 games to go into the All-Star break. They're only 2.5 games behind the Mets. The Mets had that giant NL East lead for like the entire first half, as they did for much of last year in the first half. But the Braves are nipping at their heels here. We've seen the Braves make runs in the second half, win the division. They won the World Series last year. Tons of talent with that team. How do you see the NL East sizing up? You think those teams are going to be like neck and neck the rest of the way?
Yes, I do. Braves are so good and so professional and so driven. Look at they've closed the gap here, and I think it's going to be a good, fun race between those teams. And who knows, the Phillies could make it interesting as well. But the Mets look like a sure thing to win that division, and they're still awfully good, especially getting those two pitchers back. They have Scherzer back. They're expected to get DeGrom back. Get a lot of thunder in that lineup, and they can feel it and smell it. But this division is not over by a long stretch.
No, it's not. And Jim and I are going to be here all throughout the second half talking trade deadline, talking playoff race, because the Phillies, they have a better chance this year than they've had in several years. As you said in a recent podcast, we've gotten used to them making those late season runs where they're like, they have that one last chance, that one last grasp, and they come up just short. But this year, 6 games over 500 at the break. Run differential is a stat that typically doesn't lie. And the Phillies are among the best in the majors. They were aided by how much they dominated the Marlins over the weekend, but they needed to dominate the Marlins. It was a team they haven't been able to beat. They kind of exercised some demons going down there to Miami, and you wonder if that can play a role in the second half, because the Phillies still have, 3, 6, 9 games left against the Marlins. Those are going to be extremely important games, how they play against the Marlins, how they play against the Nationals, because as I said, all those NL Central teams that the Cardinals and Brewers are going to be able to beat up on, and the Cardinals are probably the most important team for the Phillies to look at moving forward.
Yeah, and the Phillies do need to take care of business against the Marlins and the Nationals, and just looking forward on that schedule to September. Do you think that Giants series with the Phillies and brother Gabe Kapler's Giants could be awfully interesting?
I don't know what he was wearing the other day, but I saw Gabe Kapler come out to make a pitching change, and he was wearing like a cape, like a Giants cape that went down. Yeah, maybe that's what it was. So that definitely stood out. But all right, so that's the first half is in the books. We got the All-Star game tonight, then a few total off days. The Phillies resume things on Friday against the Cubs. So a lot of NL Central coming up for the Phillies. Cubs, Pirates, Reds, Pirates again later in August. These are teams the Phillies haven't seen yet. These are teams that are bound for 100-plus losses. And the Phils have been better this year at beating up on inferior competition. So we'll see how they line things up out of the All-Star break. We'll see what ends up happening with that 5th spot in the rotation, because as we said, the trade deadline is just 2 weeks away. He's Jim Salisbury. I'm Corey Seidman. Thanks a lot for listening to the Phillies Talk podcast. We'll catch you later in the week when the Phils pick things back up.